I'm gonna rock the blazer today, and like, how does it? Just please explain.
I got to put on what I wanted to put on.
Thank you so much for
God
coming all
bless
the
you,
way
sir.
from Possum Trot, East Texas, right?
East Texas, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What a time you're having.
Yeah. Kind of, I don't even know how to answer that question, but it's one of them way out yonder in the blue yonder times, It's one of them times that you come against so many things you don't expect, and then when you get there, you find, well, I don't know if I want to do it or not. Then once you get there, say, this all right here. So it's just an up and down situation, a touch and go. So I learned to accept one day at a time.
Sometimes, when you start a sermon,
Mm-hmm.
do you know how it's going to end? Like, do you know what's going to come out of your mouth on a Sunday morning from the minute you open it? Or do you kind of take the temperature of the room and maybe call an audible along the way? How's your brain work when you're up there preaching?
My brain has a direct connection in heaven. And those angels who is feeding my thoughts and mind with the word to say, because a lot of time, although I have one thing on paper, a lot of time the Spirit of the Lord take me clean away from that paper and just show me because I think the Spirit of the Lord fit the congregation and the mindset of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to come in and direct my mind and my thought where the message will go direct and be a blessing to them, to help them. There may be somebody out there who is going through a lot. Then the Lord going to show things in the word as we stand up there that we need to classify that and show them their way out of that, or how they can be helped. So I never know what the ending going to be. It's just like starting church. We know what time we're going to start. We don't know what time we're going to end.
Well, you know what? It's a lot like a podcast.
That's right.
What's the difference between a bishop, a preacher, a reverend? Is there one?
In the New Testament church, there's fivefold ministry
Mm-hmm.
to be operated in. And because the bishop is not in the fivefold, I don't think, but the preacher and the teacher go. Each function have its own platform. In other words, there are spiritual elevation in the spirit. Just like you work hard here and then you get a promotion on your job. In the church, it's the same way. God promotes us because of our work and our faithfulness. So he elevates us to different realms of his anointing. There's a realm that we have to go higher and higher and higher. If you're doing a work for God, he always got a plan that you don't know anything about, that he want to carry you through. Because anytime it kind of like some went and some was sent. Mm-hmm. When you are went, you pick up your own tab. But when you are sent, God pick up the tab. So it's so amazing how this thing works out. God always have a remnant that he's going to carry his people to an area, because he said, I know the plan that I have for your life. So he already know the plan. We don't know the plan, but God knows the plan. So that's the difference in him. There's different stages in the arena, in God's arena, and on his agenda that we go to.
What he did in Possum Trot is, it's difficult to believe, right? Like if you just read it on the page, you say to yourself, wow, that's an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. And the first time I heard the story, I did think, boy, what a terrific movie this would make. But Hollywood's not going to make this movie. And then my buddy Chuck here said, well, you got to see this, Mike, this Sound of Hope thing. And I watched it about a week ago. And you really, it's difficult to know where to begin with this. But like the Bible says, in the beginning,
God.
I mean, it's a pretty interesting place to start. And the fact that this miracle happened in a place like Possum Trot, right? I think maybe we ought to start there. Tell our listeners what Possum Trot is, why it's named Possum Trot, where all the possums got to, and if anybody's still trotting.
Well, we trot every week. I don't know if it's possum that trot now, there's human. But Possum Trot is a little place way back off in the woods of East Texas, in the Clay Hills of Wood, Texas. Nothing but woods down there. Most, you got families and stuff in there. But, and somebody would say, wonder why would God start a movement in Possum Trot? Well, there's a biblical answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
God, in what I have learned, that God have always go to the low places. He never went to the big, the rich, and the famous. He always come to low places. Now, for an example, look at Mary for an example. She was just a little country girl, young girl, barefoot girl in the country, because Jerusalem was just a little country town. That's all it was. So he always come and start something so miraculous. Look at Moses on the backwood. He's back there in the woods back there. There's a sheep herder doing different things. And even David, for an example, just a little shepherd boy. So God never reaches for the big. And I think one of the reasons is because we don't want to be like the rich young ruler. After he went out there and gathered all his stuff, he said, Lord, look what I done. I'm going to tear all these little barns down, and I'm going to build me some bigger barns. I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. I think God want to go to the people that he feels that he can trust, that he knows going to be able to handle whatever he laid before him. Possum Trot was a place that God came to because he feel that some way and somehow we was going to do benevolent. We're not going to back up. We were going to go in, we're going to go in and head on, ready to go to work, to do what God wants to do. And it was, it's so amazing too. Anything God orchestrate, there's always going to be a fight. The enemy going to always fight against you. He always going to find a way to make you feel like, why am I doing this? Is so crazy. I ain't got nobody doing it. He says, let somebody else do it. And this is what in the mindset of a lot of people are. I'm not going to adopt them children, fool them children, because they're too bad, they're too this and that. But in the most part, if you look at it real, all of us been adopted. And you can't get away from that. So I think that Possum Trot, God reached, and he just amazes me the way he do things. So a lot of times I say, Lord, why you come down here? Well, I mean, we were satisfied because we don't have nothing here. We have absolutely nothing. We ain't got no family life centers. We don't have this. We don't have no playground. We don't have, and still don't have it. But I don't look at what we don't have. I look at what we got. We got a church and we got the love of God, and that's what makes the difference.
In the movie, the point's made pretty early on that you don't know you're poor until somebody tells you. And even then, it's just a word. It doesn't mean much of anything. And I think it was your wife who articulated that. And it was so for me, I was very lucky. I grew up middle class. At least I thought I did. It wasn't until later that I realized that we really didn't have very much at all, but I felt very rich as a child. And then I saw that movie and I saw the portrayal and I thought, oh my goodness, those poor people. But then I thought, what am I saying? They don't know, they don't think of themselves any way other than I did. And so that was the first thing in the movie that I really, really loved. And then I loved how hard it was. I loved how hard it was for your wife to deal with her mom's death. Mm-hmm. And I loved how hard it was for you to get your head around the idea that maybe you should just adopt a child at that point. Nothing was easy. And that's why I wasn't so sure about the movie at first, because I thought if they sugarcoat this, if they just make it seem like, oh, look at these nice people in this little town you never heard of, they're going to adopt 77 kids and they all live happily ever after. Baloney. It was a tough road, man. Mm-hmm. And I admire it.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And I feel like this. If everything was easy, you better examine yourself. And you better examine, is God in it? Because if it's easy, that's letting you know that the enemy is satisfied with it. If you got to go against the grain, if you got to fight your way through, if you, like the Bible said, be a good soldier in the armies, and a soldier's trained to fight. This is what we do. We train our people to fight in the spirit, not in the natural. Because these things like this, you can't do in the natural. You got to have the power of God. You got to trust God, and you got to believe God.
Soldiers are also told to follow orders.
Right. Follow.
Chain of command.
Christ. Yeah, chain of command. Follow me as I follow Christ. That's what Paul tells us to do. So it was nothing simple. It was nothing sweet. I ain't going to tell nobody no lie. Them children gave me hell. And I'll tell anybody they did, And because they didn't know no better. They only act the way what they know. They didn't understand and did not know. You bring a child in your home 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years, or 8 years. Their little mind has already been spread out so thin until they don't know right from wrong. They don't know what love is and a mother and a father is. So you have to begin to transform their lives. You got to reach in their little brains and pull stuff out. But every time you pull something bad out or negative out, you put something good back. And if you don't do that, that child going to grow up, get on the street, kill somebody, hurt somebody, going to kill himself. So Possum Trot wasn't a place where the nice things were and people struggled. All those families, they struggled really bad. But we succeeded because we wouldn't give up. And the key to the whole thing is staying with the process. It's easy for us to talk this. And I'm glad they did the movie like this to let people know, hey, look, it wasn't easy in the Possum Trot, but it was successful. Because why? They stayed with the process. The process, we want the end results of it, but we don't want to deal with the process of it. And it's going to be a process. I don't care what you do. Man, I was laying in bed this morning. It felt so good, and it was nice and cool in the room, and I didn't want to get up. And I said, Lord, how much I need to get up. I don't want. But then I laid off a few more. I don't want to get up. But to see what the process for me to get up, because I had work to do. And this is what we don't want to face, the process. We want the joy, but we don't want to go through the process.
I want to ask you about the process of picking out that outfit. Did Donna play a role in this? Did she say, today, WC, I want to see you in the bib overalls, but we're going to meet Mike Rowe, so maybe you put on a blazer anyway? Or did you just say, no, this is what I'm going to rock the blazer today? And how does it, just please explain.
I got her to put on what I wanted to put on. And that was it. I mean, it wasn't no discussion. I felt like when I left Texas, I packed overalls. I said, this is what I'm going to wear. My clothes, and I'm going to wear a jacket. That's all I'm going to wear. That's it. Because I feel more comfortable with these overalls. Now, don't ask me where the idea come from, because my daddy was a farmer, but he never wore overalls, and I just picked up these overalls, some months ago, and I've been started wearing them, and I've been wearing them ever since.
What kind of farms you grew up on?
We raised corn and peas and okras, tomatoes and chickens and hogs and stuff like that, because in my house, we were so poor living back off in them woods. I mean, we didn't even know. I'll put it to you like this. I was 12 years old before I knew that a chicken had more than a foot and a neck.
I don't even know what that means. That's funny.
Because you never saw a breast or a thigh.
It was all just necks and feet.
That's all I saw.
All right.
And I mean, I was happy to get them necks. I mean, because it was good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You didn't have a choice, because I had 9 other brothers and 1 sister in the house. They picked the litter, so I had to get what was left, because I'm next to the baby.
Wait. You had 9 brothers, 1 sister. Mm-hmm. That's 11 of you altogether.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well,
10.
9 and 1.
Okay, I'm one of the 9.
Oh, you're one of the 9. Gotcha. I see. 10. That's a good number. Mm-hmm. Well, it's no wonder you adopted 1,000 kids. So, okay, how important was work ethic? Was that a lesson that your folks tried to instill, or was it just kind of baked in to the boy you were and the man you became?
It was baked in, because then my daddy was not going to be in that field and you laying up with a fan in your hand fanning, because we didn't have nothing else. You didn't have no electric stuff like that. So we had to get out there in that field and work. And what it was doing also, in my home, you just didn't eat. You had to do something to earn your keeps. And all of us, little boys, if we weren't out there in the field, we was out there in some bushes somewhere picking berries and plums and selling them for whatever, wrecking somebody's yard. I mean, to me, I wanted money. I love money, and the only way I was gonna get it, I had to work for it. I mean, you take what we used to do, Mike. You give me $1, and I go in there and get me 100 pennies. And I'd be walking around shaking it in my pocket. I had money, and I was rich, and that's what I thought. But the thing of it is, it was teaching me all the time, if a man don't work, he don't eat. So it taught me then, and I've been working all of my life. I can truly say I've been working all my life, but I never stole. I never had to steal. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not a alcoholic, none of that stuff. I can't stand that stuff. I used to try to smoke a little rabbit tobacco, but that didn't agree with me either.
Rabbit tobacco?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, it's a little bush you got out there in the woods out there, and you light it up, but that stuff tasted so horrible, it's unreal. So I tried that, but that didn't work out too good either. So I kind of reserved myself to be what I am now, and I think God had a shield and a protection, because in my family we have 4 preachers. 4 brothers started preaching. We had a group called the Martin Brothers, and we sung all over the country. And out of that 7 brothers, we ended up with 4 preachers.
Wait a minute. 4 preachers out of the same family?
Yeah.
And was it your other 3 brothers that sang with you?
Yep.
They were the preachers?
They were preachers too. It was
4
7,
singing preachers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was the group called?
Martin Brothers.
What kind of song? I'm guessing.
Gospel.
What's the greatest gospel song ever written?
In my opinion, I love the old hymns. Jesus, keep me near the cross. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Now that one, you can sing that one anytime, because that become personal, because it was grace, God's grace, that brought me out of darkness into the marvelous light. And if it had not been for grace, I wouldn't be here today, and you wouldn't be here today. So God's, and what makes it so beautiful, it's so amazing. God's grace is so amazing because it look beyond our faults and it see our needs. That's what makes it so amazing.
My Nana, my grandmother, we had this conversation once about Amazing Grace. And she said the thing about it that amazed her was that you could take the words to Amazing Grace and you could put them against the song. You'll remember this song. It was the theme song of Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you can take Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost and now I'm found. But you can also go the other way. You can take the theme song of Coca-Cola and you could put that onto Amazing Grace. So it's, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. So, like, a great song can be moved into a different melody.
But Amazing Grace stands all by itself. It has the grabbing of what singing is all about. Because see, when I grew up, we didn't know what music was. So we used to walk around in the house and just singing Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, because that was a song that if anybody would look into it, that song had so much meaning behind it. And because the word grace is an unmerited favor of God. In other words, when you start thinking about grace, when Paul told God, he said, Father, he said, I got a thorn in my flesh. And God said, I'm not going to move it. He told Jesus, I'm not going to move it. He said, but my grace is sufficient. Now, what he was saying to Paul was, look, although you got that thorn in your flesh, I don't have to move that thorn out of your flesh in order for you to do my will. When you get ready to do my will, you got my favor on your life to carry out my will. And all of us got some thorns. It may not be the same thing, but we all got some thorn. But we don't look at the thorn. We look at the one that's giving us the grace to carry out his will. And that's all we're here for.
Now, this is the Paul on the road to Damascus
that's
that
the
we're
Paul.
talking about?
That's the Paul.
That's the Paul. That's like the pebble in the shoe, right? You put a thorn in the side, a pebble in the shoe, a little something to remind yourself.
You, that's what it was. See, that's what Paul said. You know, this was to remind Paul. And some said that Paul was blinded on the Damascus road. And when Jesus spoke to him, They said that nobody else heard Paul. But something so amazing about that, because Paul answered. He said, "Who art thou, Lord?" He said, "I'm the one in whom thou persecute." If you look at that, I really believe that Paul had an inkling of who Jesus was in the beginning, because why would he address him as Lord? Think about it.
What kind of songs did you sing? I know it was gospel songs, but was it with like 4-part harmony? Did you?
Yeah,
Did
three
you have
part. 3 part. We had guitars, drums, and occasionally we had keyboard because my daughter went and played for some time.
So, at what point do you meet your wife in this whole thing?
We had, when someone had invited us to a church, in a place called East Hamilton. That's on the other side of Possum Trot.
Mm-hmm.
And we went down there that Sunday and we did a program down there. Then they invited us to Bennet Chapel. And then when we came up there, was one Sunday evening, and when she walked in the door and I saw her, in my own mind, I said, I'm going to marry her. In my own mind. I didn't tell nobody that. I had an inkling. And it taken already 3 years, but God brought it to pass. I feel like that God did this and brought this to pass for such a time as this. Because, see, we have short-range plan, but God got long-range plan because he knows the plan that he has for our life. So this was all part of his will and his plan for us to get married. And you know, I never will forget it. We had set the date to get married. I worked in a steel mill, and about 80 pounds fell on my foot. I shouldn't have had that. I shouldn't have had no, that should have been cut off. But God kept it on and it healed. And we were set the date and I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk with no shoe on. Her daddy said that he don't need to wear no shoe. I'll come and pick him up and bring him in here. but he was a little fella, you know. I was a big guy, you know. But I don't think he was going to be able to do that.
You're not getting out of it this easy.
That ain't going to work there. That ain't going to get work there. So we reset the date. And one of my brothers who was singing in the group, he was preaching that time and pastoring. He came to Possum Trot, and we got married in Possum Trot.
What's the difference between preaching and pastoring?
A whole lot.
Yeah?
Because you can preach and go. A pastor got to stay there and deal with all the headaches and the pain.
Preach and go? Sounds like a fast food restaurant. Come on by the preach and go.
Yeah, you know, a preacher can come in there, it's just like an evangelist. He'll come in there and preach, and once he get through preaching, he gone. But a pastor is there to watch over the flock. Jeremiah said, I will give you pastors after my own heart that will feed you with knowledge and understanding. So God, when he brought, and you know, in the New Testament, they had shepherds. Them shepherds sit there all night long, watch over the sheep, protect them from danger. So the pastor is the one who ought to sound the alarm. In other words, he's the watchman on the wall. He's watching over the souls in the church and making sure that the enemy don't slip in through a crack or come in there in the back door. And you know, it's one thing I'm telling you, it's amazing. Pastoral leadership, we got too many preachers in the pulpit opposed to pastors.
I was just about to say, it sounds like a pastor is a preacher with an actual job.
Yeah, he got a job, you know. They do. They have a lot. There's a lot of. See, nowadays in this this millennium generation, preacher, well, I'm gonna get me a church and I'm gonna have me a great big old church. I'm gonna have this. That could not be your calling. See, that could not be. It could be your calling to be an evangelist, but you gonna step out of your calling and try to pastor, and then it's gonna be hell. Because you're going to be doing some stuff and anybody going to be involved in a lot of stuff. And that's not the way God wanted it to be. Everybody needs to stay in their own lane.
There's a scene in the movie where you, as portrayed by Demetrius, right? And by the way, man,
what did you think of that? What did you think of his performance?
That's the question. What did it feel like sitting there the first time you saw you in him?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that Demetrius did an exceptionally good job. God bonded us together because we spent about 2 hours together. First time we met, we prayed, we talked. I kind of gave him me and who I was. But then again, my daughter was there because the choir that they had, that was my daughter sitting on the keyboard. I wasn't there. So when he do something, they'll come to her and say, well, that's what your daddy do it. She'll tell him, yes, you know or not. So he did an exceptionally good job. And it was amazing for me to sit there and look at this guy portray me. I mean, he just, I mean, he had this serious look. And he had this serious attack and diplomacy about himself that he wasn't, he knew he was, and to me, it was more difficult for him to play a preacher, and not only just a preacher, a pastor, not only that, but a charismatic type preacher.
Yeah.
That too much soup in that one bowl that you got to mix up together and accept. And this guy mixed it up well and done a good job.
Too much soup in the bowl.
That bowl. Yeah.
But that is actually some wonderful, well, it's acting advice. Too much soup in the bowl is a common mistake that I think a lot of people make outside of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be a teacher, you could be a steel worker. If you got too much stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
in your mind at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
at any one time, you start thinking not about what you're doing, but how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to my first question. When you're preaching, when you're delivering a sermon, I'm just always interested in that balance between the sentence you're in the middle of right now
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out the next one you're going to say,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not you even think about that.
Don't even think about it, because the Bible said that he will let the Spirit lead you and guide you through all things. So naturally, because God called you in that particular place, naturally he going to feed you what he wants you to say to the people. There's a lot of times that I have prepared for one thing and get in the pulpit and God change it, because he want to fit the personality of the peoples there. He want to give them words of encouragement to let them know the way to go. So it's all about him and less about you. When I'm up, before I started preaching, one of the things I'm going to say, Lord, let me decrease that you might increase, because I want the people to get God's message and not my message. I mean, I don't even know if I can do what I do in that pulpit if God is not with me. Because, man, I'm all over that place. I promise you that. I am not stable. I'm not confined to the pulpit. If I may jump, I may holler, I may run, I may do some anything, because I want them to get the word. And I'm not doing this faking. I'm doing it because I feel the Spirit myself. So I got to do something, to help me to kind of get that thing, get myself in a place where I can. It's crazy. It is. And some people say, man, I'm 77 years old. And to see me move around in that pulpit, people think I done lost my mind. Say, where you get all the energy you get? Well, it's not me. That's not me. I mean, I got aches and bones, just like anybody else. But it's not me. It's the Spirit of the Lord is feeding my mind to feed the people.
So you're singing in a group. You see her.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're going to marry her. You don't know when. Which makes you wait 3 years. 80 pounds falls on your feet. You got to push the date. How long you been married as of now?
It'll be, I think it's 49?
You better think real hard on this, WC. We're recording this. This is going to go down.
Donna, can you confirm the 49 years?
August 19th,
49.
49 years ago. When you decided to adopt, and I don't want to give too much of the movie away. It's your life, it's your story, but you lost your mom, Donna, and that opened up. It felt like a hole, a chasm in your life. So she comes to you and she explains all of this, and you love her madly, and you already have a daughter,
son,
and you have a son who was disabled mentally. So so you got challenges. Now you got a sad wife, got a beautiful daughter, you got a boy that takes a lot of your time. When did you decide that you would adopt? And forgive me, I just got to ask this. Did you do it to keep your marriage what you needed it to be? Did you do it for her, or did you do it because you looked at the foster care system and it broke your heart? Did you do it because God told you you'd better do it? What was the inciting incident that made it clear to you that that was the path forward?
My biggest qualm in the beginning was my son, Princeton. Every man have a boy child, especially your first child. You do not expect for him to come out with brain damage. And it was so bad that I really had a hard time with that, because I wonder why would God give me a child like that. But I didn't know that God was teaching me something, a little word called patience. And that little word called patience, because you have to be very, very patient. You can't take him fast, because you try to take him fast, you're going to get frustrated, get mad, and you're going to be able to teach him. So you have to take him real slow, and he'll get it after a while, but it's going to take you some time in doing that. So when she told me about that, that's the first thing hit my mind. What about Prince? Because we got all of this stuff going on. I'm working hard, you got bills due, and then adoption was kind of like an attitude. Well, one of the things I didn't know was all connected to adoption. I had no clue, because, in fact, I didn't even know adoption was existed, because people in the black communities have always taken care of their children, because if something happened to mama, they were raised by their grandmama or raised by their auntie. That's the way the cycle was. But then again, when I found out that after we got involved, and then I found out, man, this thing is crazy. I think it had to be a God movement for me to get in. I wasn't able to go to the classes like she was because I was working all the time. And I really think it was a God movement. I feel in my heart, and it feels strong today, 100%, that when God brought it together, it was all about God moving, just like it was bringing the marriage together. It was a God movement because he had his purpose and reason. And see, God ain't going to never just drop you out in the middle of nowhere. He always going to show you, give you some little nuggets along the way to show you that some things. And I need to tell you this, because this is crucial. We was in a little small church. Her mother died, and we was in a little small church. It was so many people in that church that one side of the whole church caved in. One side of just separated from the wall. The wall separated, the floor separated from the wall. Whilst I was up preaching.
Right.
And
talk about a sign. Let God say, hey, let's just wrap this up, Bishop.
So it was so amazing to me how this thing was. And then we had to build a church. So, in the little small church, there was a woman. We did a revival, and there was a woman that come in one night. And that Friday night, she stood up to preach. And she told us, she said, this church is going to be known all over the world. She said, there's going to be newspaper articles, there's going to be television, there's going to be radio, magazine. She said, Bishop, you're going to write a book, and you're going to be on TV, you're going to write a book, it's going to be a movie, it's going to be she prophesied every single thing, and just like that woman said it came out.
But did you believe her when she said it?
Well, I was kind of, twisted in between. I'm putting it like that. And we didn't know what was going to happen. How in the world she expect? And some of the members said, "Are she kidding? Back in these woods, who going to come back here with a camera?" But see, that's what we don't know. So out of obedience, God brought this to pass. So it wasn't something that I was so enthused about. But the Lord had to let me know that this is his doing. And it's marvelous in our eyes that we just had to do what he wanted us to do. And because of the fact out of obedience. And this was years later, after, we did this. When the woman came down, when the woman preached in that church that night, this was years later. We didn't know anything what God was going to do to bring this to pass, but he did. And just like she said.
Wait a minute. She was preaching in the church before you adopted?
Yeah, all this came before. We didn't know anything.
No, you understand what he's. I mean,
it's prophetic. Is what it is. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy.
It is, but
it's crazy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, with respect, it's one thing, I would think, to look around and see, okay, the bishop and his wife have adopted a kid. And now members of the congregation have followed their example, and now we're starting to see something kind of miraculous. So now somebody comes in and says, hey, you keep doing this, and mark my words, a film crew is going to come. That kind of tracks. You're saying she was there before all
of this happened.
In the middle of
nowhere. It happened.
And she stood there with a straight face and told these people, your congregation, that books would be written,
right,
and films would be made, and the needle would move, and lives would be saved.
That's what she said.
What's she doing now?
She's still preaching.
Any other prophecies that she's
Well, she said that in fact she called me here a week ago and said a lot of things done happened that I told you. But she said now there's finna be something even greater. Even after she saw the movie, she said God finna do something even greater with this. And what my sense is this, that God is going to use this as a catalyst to bring hundreds and thousands of children out of the system.
Yep.
That's what I believe when she said God finna do something different, because it was all done for the glory and honor of God for these children. It shouldn't be this like this. It shouldn't be 400,000 children in the system, churches on every corner. If one church would adopt one child, we can end this kid. We end this thing.
Yeah.
So my voice is to ring out to tone the bell. It's time for the church to turn this thing around, because God did not ordain nothing else but the church. And that was done on the day of Pentecost, this first and second chapter of Acts. This is what we should be doing right now. And those children need a home. They need this. So this woman came in and she told us all this. So here a few weeks ago when we did the red carpet in Sunday, she said, now God finna do something greater. So I'm looking for the greater now. And the greater is that hundreds and thousands of children finna find a home.
What's her name, this woman?
Juanetta Tave.
Chuck, we got to call Juanetta. I got some questions about the next couple of years. I want to get to the bottom of this.
I know it don't sound how you may say naturally corrected, but God always got somebody. That's what a prophet does. And in the fivefold ministry, the prophet is listed in there.
What's that mean?
A prophet, the fivefold ministry means that God need to have all of these particulars for the New Testament church to operate properly. And in the fivefold, this is the New Testament church. He's talking about the fivefold men in the New Testament church, because he wants the church to operate properly. He got a standard for the church to operate in. And if you operate out of that standard, and a lot of people don't believe in it, but it's the word that you operate in the fivefold ministry. You know, the preachers and teachers and pastors and evangelists and the prophet. Those prophets are to come in, and what a prophet does, he prophetically tell you what is to come. That's what all them guys in there, like Abraham, like Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel. You read in the Old Testament, they wasn't doing that, but just prophetically telling you what's going to come to pass.
When you look at that through the lens of history, it's one thing. When you look at it on the big screen in 2024, well, it's something else altogether, because now it is of our time. And that, I think, is what's so arresting about this. You know, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm reminded, there's a phrase I like to use a lot. It's the title of a book that was written by a Christian, a guy called Josh McDowell. And the book is called The Evidence Demands a Verdict. And you're the evidence. It's not a thing that might have happened a long time ago. There's 77 children that were adopted who very likely otherwise would not have been, in the most unlikely of towns. So my only point is, we're living in a time where and you do this in the movie. When the movie ends, you see those real kids. You see the real people. So we're up to our neck in evidence, but we're also up to our neck in this prophecy. And it's really odd, I think, for both of those things to happen at the same time, where Juanita's still alive. She can say, yeah, I said it, and now I can prove it. Everything I said was going to happen happened. So that is the sound of hope. And I think, even though you just kind of mentioned it, we ought to spend a couple of minutes. It's kind of grim, but I want people to understand the totality of the problem, why the foster system, as well-intended as it is, has run into such problems, and why so many kids in the system can't get placed, and why so many who do get caught in this turmoil and wind up on a road that doesn't lead anywhere good. You guys broke that cycle. Why is it so hard to break, and why is the problem so bad today?
The foster system is broken, and it needs fixing. And instead of getting a guy to write the guideline that just because he got a PhD degree does not qualify him to be able to handle the problem of the children. To me, if you're going to find out what is it like and how do those children feel, call somebody who been there, done that, got a T-shirt and a cap to prove it. You can't just sit up here and look at a situation to be able to examine the inside of it. You got to be on the inside to know what's happening on the inside. This foster system, the way it's set up, sometimes I wonder how bad do they want the children adopted. And I'll say this in front of anybody, because nobody else hired me but God, and he the one that can fire me. I think that right now, if we look at this system, there's too many stipulations and too many things. That's why people are sick of it, because some people have been turned down over frivolous stuff. And there's an example that I use. I had this, I worked on a task force in Texas, and it was a minority task force. Well, we had this lady who wanted to adopt a child. Her daddy was an invalid, and he was an old man in the bed. And she wanted to adopt a child. But when he was 21, he jumped on a guy and beat the tar out of that guy, ended with a felony on his record. She wanted to adopt that child, and the only way she could get that child, she was taking care of her dad. The only way she can get that child, she had to take her dad out the house. Stuff like that. we was going to try to get back in it. So I asked the woman, I said, what's some of the criteria? She said, well, one thing you're going to have to know, how many people coming in your house for the rest of the year and their name. Now, I said, just a chicken picking minute here. How in the blue blazer do you expect me to know who going to be coming and knocking on my door? I said, where did the mailman come there and knock on my door? I don't know his name.
You got to call Juanita, figure out who's going to come over a year in advance.
See, so stuff like that. And people say, I've been turned down. You don't make enough money. You don't do this. You don't do that. Look, if you examine the closet, all of us got some skeletons in there. But you're going to make it so difficult. I bet you it's been so many honest families, good families, been turned down, all because they don't fit this little silly rule right here. They don't fit that rule. Don't fit that. It's time now to do away with some of these rules. I'm not saying to put a child in a house of a drug addict or a murderer or a rapist or a serial killer. I'm not saying that, but at least look at this thing from a different eye. That is why it is so difficult. And also, the church and state, it's been a long history. Church and state can't work together. Church and state, that's a lie. That's a lie from the pits of hell. The state of Texas and Bennet Chapel Church, we work together. Coast, I let them know. You got rules. If you made them, you can break them. You can revise them.
Sure.
I got 66 rules I can't break. 66 books of the Bible because I'm not the author and finish of it. So I can't break those rules. If I do, then God has got an indictment against me, and you're not going to help me sit up here going to hell over a rule that you said can't be, and God saying do it like this. I'm going to do it the way he said. So I think that's a lot of things that we need to compromise on. We need to open up our hearts and see this thing out of a different eye and not start seeing out just having this ego about it. You know, I look at this word ego edging God out. And so this ego here that people had is crazy. And you can't put a child at home. The lady that we had, her name was Elizabeth, played Susan.
Mm-hmm.
That woman was awesome. Susan was an awesome woman of God. Susan knew, she spent time with the family. She knew that church. She came in and visited the church all the time. Susan placed the right child in the right family. And this is why we didn't have all that turnover. She knew what she was doing. I don't think that caseworker ought to just place a child in a home just because they said I did this. I think that there should be some spiritual guidance when they place a child in them. Instead of you just doing something just because you want to get a child, hey, that's not the right problem. You're going to end up with that child back in the system. Then the other problem of it is too, if you keep the children in the system, when they get 18, you're going to turn them on the street. Then they could go out and kill somebody, or rob a bank, or they're going to do this and do the other, get on drugs and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to end up back in the system. So why not open up now where the children can have an opportunity to get in a good home and have a good family, and they can teach them something. So when they get 18, the Bible said train them up the way they ought to be. When they get old, they won't depart from it. So let's do it right. Let's do it right. Let's stop using our ego and start using God's principle and let these children go in a home. I can preach that.
Amen.
Well, I think you just did. Here's the thing, though. All of that sounds like a challenge to the state to get their house in order and amend, revise, maybe rethink some of the rules that are creating roadblocks to the very destination we all want to get to. But what I'm interested in is, what kind of trouble have you caused? What kind of challenge have you made to the Christian community, to other churches? Because you have put forth the challenge. You, without saying it, and I bet you have already. If we can do this in Possum Trot, what the heck's the problem, Baltimore? What the heck's the problem, Phoenix? What's going on in Idaho Falls? What's the problem here in L.A., Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco, Tallahassee, Kalamazoo, Timbuktu, Paducah? What's your excuse? Church, right? So have you heard back from, because this was the sentence I didn't finish before, that scene in the movie when you go to the bigger church and you say, hey, how
about a little help?
Little help. Our back's against the wall. We're struggling. We've taken in these kids. A lot of families are hurting. And that's inconvenient for that church. You were a thorn in the side of that church. You were the pebble in the shoe, right? So what have you heard from your own community around the country? Have you inspired them, or have you made them uncomfortable?
I think in that sense, many have been inspired. Many have been uncomfortable. Many have figured that.
Comfort the afflicted.
Yeah.
Afflict the comforter.
That's right. That's right.
Kind of your job.
It's kind of like what Jesus didn't make us comfortable. He made us uncomfortable. He said, look, you got to love your enemy as yourself. Now, how in the world
that is annoying, man. That is annoying.
Yeah.
How you going to sit up here, love somebody, and you know this guy done you some damage. You know he done slapped you and hit you upside the head when your back was turned. How you going to love him? And this is why we can't do this in ourselves. We got to do this through the divine power of God, and we can do it. Because the scripture said, I can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthened me. So now, as far as making people uncomfortable, I think that's when they do their best work. Because there was times in our life during the process of this, we didn't see how we was going to make it. Yes, I got rejected by many, many people. They told me they was going to do this. When I walk away from them, they probably threw my name in the garbage can and didn't even think about it no more. Many, many of them told me they're going to do this. Didn't do anything. But you know what? I feel that those people who missed the opportunity to be a blessing to the child, somewhere down the line, they're going to have to deal with God about that. Because number one, you always want to be in the process of what God is doing. You want to be a piece of that. If God is doing something, I want a part of it. Let me get in the process. Let me get in the mix of it.
A cog in the machine.
Yeah. Do something. And I mean, I can do a whole lot, but I can do something. And right now, because since the movie came out, I think a lot of people began to take some issues on that. And they see that, because I'm going to let them know, we still don't have anything down there. We've got a lot of stuff that we need down there. Still a lot of need. And they began to send a little money here, a little money there. This to help you do such and such a thing. This to help you do that. I think they began to take initiative on saying, we saw the movie. The movie inspired us to do that. And this is the thing. If they didn't send anything, just said, I saw the movie. And some saying it inspired me to go and do something. I'm calling the people up. I'm going into the state. We finna do something here. We finna do something there. We finna do something there. And I asked that same question. Where is the church in all of these different states? Look, you got everything you need. You got the big life center. You got 20,000 members. You got 15 and 10,000 members. You got a big family life center. You got this and you got that. Where's the church? And this is the problem. This is what God is asking today. Where is my church that ordained? And if anybody don't like it, come on down and we'll talk about it, But the thing of it is, because you ain't got the answer to me, you got the answer to God. Because He wants to know where the church at. I told you to do this. James 1:27. Pure religion is undefiled, that God accept that we take care of the widows and the orphanage. And then the only way we was able to get back to God is through adoption. So where is the church? If you're going to keep pushing this off and talking about how bad they are, pushing on, well, some kind of way, God got it. That's why God got the indictment against the church, because they're not doing what He told them to do. It's no way in the world all these churches on all these corners preaching Jesus every Sunday and still got all these children locked in that system. And this is what Jesus said. He said, I don't anoint you to go out and take care of this. So why you can't do it? And by pushing this off, it's only vexing God to the point where something is going to break soon. I guarantee you. I may not be in California. I might be in Possum Trot. I might be 6 feet under. I don't know, but God is going to break something, because this is flat wrong. It don't make sense. And I told some people that, look, some of us in here, they got to empty bedrooms. And we mad and all grumpy. Maybe we ought to put some children in the house to make some noise in there. You won't be so mad and grumpy all the time. You'll come out of your act and you see you got some purpose then. So all them empty bedrooms that's nice, you got a bed made up pretty and all these little ornaments all over. Put a child in that room. Let that child feel the comfort of home. Let that child feel the comfort of love and having a mother and a father. I went to visit a little boy that one day, and he told me, he said, Bishop, for Christmas, he said, don't buy me no toys, don't buy me no little ponies, no clothes. All I want, 5 years old, all I want is a mother and a father, somebody to love me. That is too much for a 5-year-old to ask. And then we talk about, they bad. Well, come on now, let's do the math. I got something that was bad. I bought in the world myself that's bad. I was bad. You was bad. So why you gonna stereotype them into how bad they are when we done some of everything, So, and some of us been really, really good. And some of us, God done save us in the midst of our sins. Some of us out there right now saying, I was on drug and the Lord saved me. I was drunk and the Lord saved me. I was about to die and the Lord saved me. So we all got a testimony to see. Let's stop this stuff. Let's stop looking at the problem and look at the problem solver. Let's see what we can do to solve this problem. And I guarantee you, when you get in this thing, God is going to bless you more than you ever can imagine.
One of my favorite parts in the movie is when you come around. She wears you down, right? You listen to the Holy Spirit. Whatever happens, you got the memo.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, okay, let's do this. And then you do the thing, and then you want to do it again. But all of a sudden, you go to this place where I didn't think you would go, where you say, we want the ones nobody else wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough just to take one of the 400,000 looking for a home. No, You, WC, you got to go. What's WC stand for, by the way?
WC.
Come on.
Not just no.
William Charles.
WC.
It's just
Come
WC.
on.
It's got to stand for. Come on, Wendell Christian. Wendell Cartwright. Wilbert.
Christopher.
Have you guys met?
49 years, you're not sure what his name
49
is?
years.
He's not sure what his name is.
WC goes in, and I guess my question is, how did you get from, all right, I'm in, to I'm all in? All the way down to Terry. You took the problem child of problem childs. How'd you get there?
Terry was living in the home of a professor from Stephen F. Austin University. And they wanted to go on a cruise. So during that time, foster parents was bringing children to a home that's already was fostering. They call it respite. And they brought Terry to us. When Terry got there, he went to mewing like a cat. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm looking at this girl and I'm over my glass. What's wrong with this girl? And she said, I'm a cat. Like that. And what I believe the reason why she was like that, the foster home that she was in, Terry, they bought Terry this huge tomcat. And this cat, she spent so much time with that cat that she started taking on the personality of that cat. And because she felt like that, she was just so in love with the cat. And I'm gonna tell you what this is what really is crazy. Terry got there, she was kind of wild. She was, because that's all she knew. And I told her, Terry, she said, we got ready to eat. I'm ready to eat. I said, well, what you doing here? I'm finna eat. I said, not here. You remember what you said? What are you? I'm a cat. I'm gonna set you a little bowl right there, and that's where I want you to eat at. And
what was in the bowl?
Junk food, all kind of stuff, gizzards
and stuff.
No, everything. You know what?
Necks and feet.
Yeah, necks and feet and all that stuff. And she said, she looked and she said, I can't eat that stuff. I said, yes, you are. That's what a cat gonna eat here. And Terry messed around there and got hungry. And when that big intestine started killing that little one, and her stomach started growling, she made a decision that she didn't want to be a cat no more. and I told her, I said, look, if this the attitude that you want, that's what you're going to eat at every day. So she said, well, I don't want to be a cat no more. Well, the tomcat disappeared. We don't know where he went. I've never seen that tomcat no more. That was her cat days. It was over. It wasn't something that I had to go to the Guinness Book World Record to look for an answer. The answer was already there. A cat gonna eat cat food. That was the answer. And if you feel like you're a cat, that's what you're gonna eat. So the only way you're gonna eat decent food, so while we sitting up in there eating greens and hot water cornbread and smothered chicken and rice and gravy, you're gonna be out there eating out that little bowl. And she decided, I'd rather take this hot water cornbread and the greens and rice opposed to eat that stuff in that bowl.
And you didn't read this in a parenting manual.
No.
You didn't subscribe to Adoption for Dummies or something, right? It just
popped up in my, because see, in the old days, the old folk used to use this word mother wit. Mother wit was just plain common sense. And sometimes you got to use common sense. You know, I pity the person that don't have no common knowledge. You got to have some common knowledge about things. And something is just, it's automatically. Because when you're in the will of God, he said, I'll teach you and I'll lead you and guide you through all things. So that was something he showed me. And what we doing? I know some of this stuff sounds weird and crazy and all that kind of stuff, but it actually happened.
The evidence demands a verdict.
Yes.
That's why you're here, because it came to pass in front of our wondering eyes.
Yes.
It actually happened in our time. And now it sits as an example that can either inspire, intimidate, affirm, magnify, or frighten. And you're right. You don't get to choose how the other churches are going to process this movie. You're like a pitcher who threw the ball. It's out of your hands now.
Mm-hmm.
No? What's it been like, or is it still too soon for your congregation, for the other people in Possum Trot? What's the reaction at this point among them?
They are so excited. It's unreal. Because they actually can see something that the name Possum Trot been on. Don't ask me how Possum Trot got there.
That's my next question, by the way.
I've read your mind. On that. That's what you call prophetic.
You and Juanita.
I have no earthly idea because I wasn't born there. I was born in Louisiana, but I was raised practically in Houston, Texas. So I had no idea how Possum Trot got there. In fact, they got a book out. I don't know where it's at, but there was a book about Possum Trot. But the people in Possum Trot are very happy because now they see their place, which was what you may call a little no harm, do nothing place in the spotlights, that they see that their town has, how you may say it, a miracle that happened in Possum Trot. Mm-hmm. And now they see the joy of it. Now, some of them still, got an issue with me. Of course, that's okay. I mean, I can deal with that. But the thing of it is that the name Possum Trot is put joy and a smile on their face because that's their home. A lot of people came from Possum Trot. They done migrated all across the country. But there's a lot of folks came from Possum Trot. We had a guy that works in a place in Houston called Gallery Furniture. And they had this guy named Mattress Mac. We met with him the other day.
He's amazing.
Tell me about it.
That guy, after the hurricanes, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talking
That's
about the
him.
same guy, just got
same guy.
All those mattresses and all those people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
He's incredible.
Yeah, he's the guy. So we had dinner with him the other day, and he had adopted a child. I think his daughter adopted or something. But anyway, he said that he was telling this guy that was he didn't have any idea this guy was from Possum Trot. His name was Charlie. He said, Charlie, man, I went to see a movie, and it was about Possum Creek or Possum Alley. He said, you talking about Possum Trot? He said, yeah, that's Possum Trot. He said, I was born in Possum Trot. Now, that just show you how mad things, he didn't even know it. He said, man, I saw this movie. You need to go see it. He said, I know the people. He said, I had this bishop. Somebody said, oh, you talking about Rev Martin and Donna Martin? Yeah. He said, I know them. He said, those are my kinfolk. He said, you know how to get, look, I can call her right now. He called my wife on the phone right then and there. That's just how amazing Possum Trot name. And people say, Possum Trot, what is that? It's a place where the power of God rest, rule, and abide, because he have escalated that place to something that will live forever. And we can just go down in history. The very first red carpet that was done in Shelby County was done with Possum Trot. That's saying a lot. That's history in the makings.
It's amazing. All right, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you did, and you were looking a year or so down the road, 5 years, 10 years, what's your best realistic hope or guess? Maybe hope's a better word, since that's the movie. It's not the sound of guessing. It's the sound of hope. What's your hope for?
I hope and pray that God will take this sound of hope and place it in the heart of every individual, that they will be inspired to do something to empty this foster care crisis. However God lead them, I pray and hope that everybody will look at this and see Jesus. For those that don't know him, to see him working that he can work out anything. I pray and hope that God will continue to tear down walls and doors, that even officials who making the rules will have a different outlook and realize that these are not numbers. These are children that God allowed to come here. I pray and hope that God will continue to pour out his anointing, his blessing throughout this nation, that all of us will see a movement in this particular Sound of Hope, the Possum Trot story, to see that God is working some things out and just be a part of it some kind of way, that it will bring joy and peace and happiness in your life, that you feel so good about going to the state and say, look, what can I do to help? What can I do to bring a child out? How can I be, how would you need me to be inspired, to be a blessing to children?
What did Isaiah say about all this? I'm trying to remember. I met a woman years ago. We did a story with her, had an organization called the Isaiah House.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, what was it, Taylor? Isaiah 117, maybe?
I think it's either Isaiah 117 or 127, something like that.
Widows and orphans, and it was such a powerful thing. And she was just one woman, and she had adopted a few, and then she started working with the state. Wasn't Possum Trot, but it was. And I'm just bringing it up because I wonder, have you heard from other people who are doing similar things? I mean, never mind inspiring people to do things they're not doing. Have you found, is there a network out there?
Yes, it is. There's a lot of them. A lot of people have taken this. In fact, I was just in North Carolina last week, and it really hurt me to my heart that I went upstairs up there, and there was children living in that office up there. And that really just hit me in the top of the head. I'm saying to myself, why? Why? So when I had a meeting with about 20 or 30 judges and lawyers, I asked them, why? What are you all doing to really help? Are you all stopping it? Are you all supplying them with the needs that they need to fix this? Or are you trying to just flick your muscles and just look at it from your own personal perspective and not knowing what the Lord said? And when I think it was some conviction went on in there, because right now I think that I got a call yesterday that said things have already begun to change. So I think that what it is, throughout the nation, as I stand and as God give me words to say and to speak to people, there's going to be a massive change. I believe in this season, there's going to be such a massive change in the system and the way things been done, because I feel like that this is a God, I know there's a God movement. It's got to change, because anything God handprint is on. That's why the enemy fought us, so we're getting it out. He fought us with every possible thing he could. But every time he stood up, God went higher. Every time he tried to stop something, God went another direction. The devil, God is not going to allow the devil to make him out of a lie, because it's not his game. This is God's thing here. So I just believe this. I just believe that other entities, even those that it's not, they looking at this, they're going back in their office and look, we need to change the way we do things. We need to do this and we need to do it. And they are doing it. So right now, other entities all over this country begin to see that it work. It can work. The state see that it work. It can work if we work together. Because you got a child, the church over here, just utilize what you got and stop looking at what you don't have, and you're going to get something done.
It is Isaiah 117, and it's learn to do, this is New King James, learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke the oppressor, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow.
Plead for the widow. Yep, that's it. So, to bring it back to music for a minute, it's a variation on a theme. we're all singing the same song, or we all want to sing the same song, but there are a lot of different ways to sing it. People are coming at it from a lot of different angles. You're not alone, obviously. But I'll tell you what, man, the movie touched me, in part because you just don't see movies like this. So just from that standpoint alone, it was great. The performances were extraordinary.
Extraordinary performances. I got to tell you, both Demetrius Gross and Nikita King, I thought were amazing. The way Nikita King portrayed, the loss of your mom, Donna, was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. And I got to just say one thing about Demetrius Gross, and I want to ask if this part of the movie is actually true, where Donna is coming to you and all she wants to talk about is adopting a baby, right? That's all she wants to talk about, and you had something else on your mind. And in the movie, you pull out the Bible. You tend to romance your wife, and you pull out the Bible and open up and read from Psalms, little poetry to get the wife in the mood.
That's Proverbs, I believe.
Proverbs, my bad. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's one where he was reading.
So that part of the movie is true. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah, Song of Solomon. Right?
No, we're not going there.
Yeah, that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
What's your favorite proverb?
I love Proverbs. What Solomon said, trust in the Lord and lean not to your own understanding, and he will direct your path. Trust God. Where we are and what we done, I had to trust God when I couldn't chase God. I had to trust God when I didn't feel God. I had to trust God when I didn't know he was there. And by doing so, it kind of reminds me what David said in Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil, because thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You see, the valley was where he was having his most difficult. When you're down in the valley, but David said, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to trouble myself for it, because I know the Lord. Whenever people as a whole, in general, have an inkling that the Lord is with them, don't worry about how you're going to get out of the valley. Don't worry about how long you're going to be in the valley, because you'll be there until God get ready to bring you out. But when the Lord bring you out, you ain't got to worry about going there no more. He's going to do something greater in your life.
Winston Churchill said it a little different. He said, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Don't stop.
Going.
That's right.
Get
That's
on
right.
through it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my last question for you. I know that I know how important humility is in your line of work and just in the human condition. I know how hard it is too to be humble, especially when good things start to happen.
Yes.
So with all of this, with the spotlight on you guys now all the time, and a lot of people clapping you on the back and saying, "Attaboy, good job, prophecies are coming true." Kids, how do you keep yourself from either celebrating prematurely, or how do you stay grounded in a moment like this? And again, just to make the point,
I know you're going.
but I just want to say that I'm asking a man wearing overalls and a sport coat at the same time,
and a collar,
and a collar, right? So I know the answer is going to be a good one, but this is the part where we land the plane.
Okay.
So take it.
First of all, I had to realize that it's not me that's doing this. I'm just a vessel that the Lord is using. And for me to, in other words, for better lack of word, let my head swell up because of people. I take it, thank you, God bless you, but I know my place. And I know that if you start overlooking the one who started that, you're going to find yourself off by yourself because the Lord going to take his hand off it. God will not allow nobody to take his glory. The glory belongs to him. So as long as what I'm doing is glorifying God, he going to be with me. And anybody can say what they want to say. Yeah, that's what you say. That's what I know. I stand on the conviction of God's word. And the scripture tells us, if I'm for you, I'm more than a whole world against you. So I don't worry about it. I just go head on, do what I do, love people. And look, everybody ain't patting me on the back. Some folk looking at me at the corner of their eyes and give me all them different look and, man, look, I that do not stop me. I go and still do what I'm going to do because they are not in charge of my life. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that it's easy. No, it's not easy. Because if I'm going to give love, I expect love. I don't hate people. Don't dislike them. I do what I need to do and expect for a person to do it. But to see people will take advantage of it, and I have been taken advantage of, it's not because I didn't know any better, but sometimes I let people think they're having their way. But in the end, they got to answer to him. They ain't got to answer to me because I'm the one they doing wrong. They doing to God. He said, when you do it to the least one of mine, you're doing it to him also. So they're really not doing it to me. They're doing it to him. So instead of answering to me, let them answer to God because he gonna take care of it. So I don't let that blow me up. I mean, I'm gonna keep on with these overalls on and then folks see, hey, look, I'm just a little country boy doing the best I can with what I got.
From Possum Trot. Bishop, your grace is amazing. Thank you for coming by, for spending time. When we do the sequel, because obviously there's going to be a sequel, Possum Trot, The Return, then, Miss Donna, you're going to sit up here and we're going to have a chat.
I'll have a mic for you then, for sure.
He'll be right there, minding his manners. Thank you both for coming, for doing what you've done. Is there a place you're sending people to go who want to help, who want to be involved, who want to somehow support this larger effort?
Let me see.
That's the thing about overalls. There's so many pockets.
A lot of pockets. Tough
so many pockets.
Yeah, but
my father's house has many pockets.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. My father's mansion has many overalls. There are many overalls in my daddy's condominium.
In my father's house, there are many mansions.
Rooms. There are many mansions. Gosh, I'll get it right. All right, he's just given me a card. It says Possum Trot. Let's see. There's a what? You want me to send him to this website?
Yeah. Address, P.O. Box.
R. Martin
at bcministry.org. That's my email address.
Email?
Okay.
Right.
Are you sure you want that out there?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if
No
you like what
danger
you
in the
heard,
water.
folks, drop WC a line at rmartin at bcministry.org. I'm not going to give your phone number. That's a pretty good picture. Who took this picture, Donna? Him on the card here. You did that? That's very talented. Folks, the movie is called The Sound of Hope. You'd be a fool not to see it. Oh, that reminds me. That's another proverb. He who troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind. Or something like that.
Or something like that.
It's pretty close. And the fool shall be servant to the wise at heart.
You know why I say that?
Why?
David said, the fool have said, there is no God. But he is a fool. And the Bible said, when you find him a fool, leave him a fool.
I got one more for you.
Okay.
A beautiful woman without discretion or modesty is like a fine gold ring found in the snout of a pig.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's good. You can use it. Take
I
it.
can use that one. I'll take that one. So please.
Check out the movie, folks. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
If you like what you heard, and even if you don't, won't you please, pretty please, subscribe. Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty